Hello, and welcome back to Crafting for Profit Live, your source for everything happening around the world of crafting. Today's episode is a special one. We are wrapping up all of the excitement and innovation and energy that we saw from Printing United 2025.
So, for those of you who couldn't make it, Printing United is the event that brings together the entire printing industry together under one roof. And this is commercial, wide format, as well as like packaging, garment, industrial print, and even small printers that crafters would use. Everything under one roof. This year's show was in Orlando, Florida. It was amazing. Hundreds of exhibitors, thousands of attendees, and an incredible lineup of technology demos and education sessions.
All right, so this episode is pre-recorded. So if you're watching the YouTube live premiere with us, we are over in the chat. If you're listening on YouTube or the podcast, you can check the YouTube description, the podcast notes for all of the information we're going to talk about. I wanted to apologize. I actually got back from Orlando and I am sick. So if my voice sounds a little bit funny, it's because I can't breathe, just can't breathe. It's fine.
All right, so during Pretty United, we've seen solutions that redefined what print production can look like in 2026 and beyond. So, whether you are walking the show floor or following from afar at home, this episode is your all in one recap and our personal thoughts on the printing industry and how it appeals to everyday crafters and the small business owner.
We have two fantastic guests joining us today to give us their unique perspectives on what stood out to them, what's next, what surprised them most. So first up, I want to introduce Jen from Creative and Crafty Housewives and Crystal Summers from Life Love Creations. They are part of our Crafting for Profit team, but they were here with us in Printing United. And so we got to walk the show floor together. So the four of us, we're just going to talk. We're going to talk about what we did, what we saw, and what we're excited about for you guys.
All right, ladies, are you ready to dive in?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. So we're going to do these kind of rapid fire style, and each of us is going to give our opinion on a bunch of different topics. So the first thing is personal favorites. So your personal favorite finds from Printing United. Corey, you want to start?
Sure. I actually really liked in the Caesar booth how they were layering different types of HTV. So if you are an HTV crafter, so if you have a Cricut or a Silhouette, something like that, they have some really, really interesting ways to layer their different products. And all of them I thought were really, really creative. One of them involved it started with flock and then had puff and then metallic on top of that. And then like holographic to create this sort of like puffy sports letter. And it was so cool. It was really, really cool. I had not seen that done before. There was some like puff used in really interesting ways. I don't know. Everything I looked at in there, I was like, my brain is really creative. And I don't think it ever would have gotten here.
I agree. I think Caesar, they always have they use their products in such an innovative way that, I mean, as somebody who hoards Easy Weed and all of their products, I would never think to use it the way that they do. So that was also pretty unique.
I also agree. I think the thing that I saw that was the most like wow for me was and you guys will have to help me remember exactly what it was called, but it was like the UV DTF for garment. And they combined two things. So first of all, UV DTF for garment, like we have not seen that. That looked completely different from everything that we've seen. And they combined it with these images that are like stitched images. So they look embroidered. We were walking around and I kind of saw it from a distance and I was like, what? And we walked up and I was blown away. It was so cool. Then we walked around the booth and on the other side, they actually had the machine set up and they were showing how they were doing it. And I was just like, I don't need this machine, but how do I justify needing this machine? Because it was so cool. And as somebody who loves the embroidered look, I have an embroidery machine. We do all that stuff, but finding the time to do it, not that easy. And to get that look without having to actually sit and embroider would be like the best of all worlds for me.
They were combining it with, it was puff too, wasn't it? Wasn't that, it was like UV DTF puff. So that's what made it really like pop. And we all were just like, it was so cool.
We were blown away. So that is actually, that's from Craft Express. That's their Otter Pro DTF puff machine. It specifically does this UV DTF puff. So first of all, we're like, wait, you're putting UV DTF on a garment? Like that's not what we've learned. That's not how we do things. So it was basically coming out of what looked like a UV DTF machine. and they would peel back that clear plastic lining and then place it on the shirt. And I don't know, it was very, very cool.
Then some magic happened. I mean, there was magic happening in the heat press. Like it was so cool. I couldn't even begin to explain the process. But yeah, it was amazing. So one of my personal favorite things always is to see all the unique sublimation blanks that companies are going to come out with within the next year. I feel like people are getting into more where you can sublimate on the packaging. There were like pencil holders. There was a really cool photo thing that sort of like popped out of a box. I mean, there was the keyboards. Jen found these keyboards and you could sublimate each of the keys. Just very cool, creative things. And so I love that. I see that sublimation is going to continue within the industry and even grow where we can do more of these things at home.
When I saw those keyboards, I was like, how are they doing this? And it was fun to see that they're creating these different machines. Like on the one hand, it's like, do I really want one more machine? But on the other hand, I love that I'm not having to buy a machine that does everything that maybe I don't need to do. And instead, I can be like, okay, I want to do this, or that's really cool, but I don't really need to do that, but I could use it on a smaller scale. I really like that we're getting more of that, that it's like, okay, I want to make mugs. I don't need to make 40-ounce tumblers, or I want to make phone cases, but I don't need to make keyboards that are customized. And it's like, okay, well, if you just want to make phone cases, we have this one here for you. That's $100 whatever dollars. If you want to do bigger stuff, it's over here and it is going to cost you more. I feel like that opens the doors for small businesses and for like our hobby crafters that are just like, I just want to start and I don't have $5,000 to spend doing all the things right now.
Yeah, and I think having machines that are actually purpose built for one particular task, those machines always work better, right? Does my big heat press work better than my 5-in-1 heat press? Absolutely, because my 5-in-1 heat press is trying to press mugs, but my Cricut mug press presses those mugs better. So I think that a lot of times we try and get as much value as we can out of what we're buying. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that, but I think a lot of times it's trying to be a jack of all trades, master of none sort of situation. And I think if you can get that sort of purpose built thing for the one thing that you really want to do, maybe you want to make keyboards for your small business, which by the way, yes, do that. I feel like, you will get that specialized heat press and it will work really well for you.
So for our next question, we want to talk about the surprise or wow moments. And I'll start this one off with saying we weren't very far into the show floor and we ran into a 3D printer that was the size of a bedroom. It was printing out Crocs that were larger than our bodies. It was like an ice cream cone that was taller than me that was 3D printed on this thing. Now, I'm sure this is for, Disney to print all those very cool things that they have around their theme parks. But it was so awesome to see that in person and just watch it run. Like I was totally amazed, blown away just by the size of this.
I was going to say the exact same thing because I was like, this thing, like you literally has doors. You walk into it. It is its own thing. And I was like, what? And, you just don't really think about the machinery that you need to build giant 3D printed things. And it was very, very cool. And I think it kicked off our whole trip really, really well because we were like, okay, what else are we going to see here?
I completely agree. I feel like that was so cool. I think the other thing that's really always like wows is seeing the things that for me that it's like I'm probably never going to have, but just being in there and seeing what can be done. I'm still obsessed with last year. I feel like there was a lot more of them. I still saw some this year, but those gigantic printers that print on like the foam board stuff and then cuts it out right there. And they're like handing us these things and it just blows my mind. I'm just like, I do not need this, but I just think about all the things that I could do if I had it. Like, I'm like, I have a gigantic tree out front that I decorate for Christmas. Like, if I had these machines, what things could I create that I could add into that? And so it's like inspiring on this like high level. And then it like keeps you like going like, okay, like how can I translate this for the things that I do have? So I just think that's always so fun to see those things that are just way beyond what I'm going to be doing.
Something that I saw was, I think it was the second day and we were leaving. We walked by a printer that was printing stickers, but they were like 3D. Like that was so cool. We were just all touching it and we were like, what is this? Like it was very, very cool.
Yeah, it was like a clear, thick UV coating, like that, like built up over to like on itself, and so you could like, it was like very tactile. It was like what it was very cool.
Yeah, it was very cool.
Even just seeing, like Jen was saying, the cutouts, or like they were printing on fabric and cutting out like the pieces of a sports jersey, and just seeing that and knowing that that's how those things are made. It's a very cool thing to see in a, a conference center, and seeing like how things are made professionally. Now, do I need a printer that is literally the size of my craft room? Absolutely not. But it's more of getting to see those things, video them, having those wow moments, and then going over to the booths that actually have things for crafters and saying, okay, what does this look like on a smaller scale?
I know last year we saw more of it in Vegas, but I did see at least one instance this year of them actually wrapping cars. And that is always just one of those like mind-blowing things. They just have these like giant sheets of printed material and they're just like slapping it on like Teslas or whatever. And you're just like, wow, that's very, very cool.
I think the other thing that is always a wow for me at these events is that I don't ever feel like anyone doesn't want to talk to us. Like, yes, I'm there for like the crafting things and stuff. And no, I don't need, like you said, a 3D printer that's printing things larger than I am, or these huge printers that are going like are bigger than my home. But you can like stand there and talk to the people and they're so excited to share about what they're doing and how they use it. And even like with those fabric ones where they're printing on it, and you're seeing like all this fabric be cut away, and they'll talk to you about like how they reuse that, what they're doing with it. I think it's such a great opportunity to just learn more about the industry and like where they're moving in, being more eco-friendly or, reducing waste, like all these things that they really are thinking about that stuff. And while we might not be perfect yet, that companies are trying. And I think that's the thing is like the last year, I feel like I was just like, I'm no one. I don't even know like what half of this stuff is. This year I felt a little bit more like, oh no, like these people want to talk about what they're doing. And it doesn't matter that I'm never going to buy that machine. They're still happy to describe it to me and tell me what it can do and how they're using it.
Yeah, we chatted with a guy who was showing us like the world's tiniest 8-part silk screen set. Like, I don't even know what to call this thing. It basically does the silk screening for like, if you have a tag in the back of your shirt, instead of having a tag, you can have like a little tiny, 1-inch little print. And so this had like 8 little things all the way around, and you could just put your shirt on there and do your little, and it automatically did it. And I'm like, this is the cutest machine. And he's like, that's what they say. Everybody says it's the cutest machine. And I'm like, I have no need for one, but I will tell you that it is very cute. And he was very excited to tell us all about it.
And that's the thing about your first year. These wow moments are very overwhelming. I felt very overwhelmed the first year. I was like, I don't even know where to start. I don't know where my eyes need to be. And then the second year, you're like, okay, that machine is very cool. That's a cute screen printer. Moving on, moving on to the next thing. So I feel like the second year I got a little more out of it and not being overwhelmed by all those wow moments.
Yeah. And it's smaller in Orlando than it is in Vegas, which also helps.
Sure.
So I think going to it in Orlando the first year that would be my suggestion if you're in Orlando or around and can get there. Like Orlando, while still being enormous, you'll walk into this room and be like, this is the biggest room I've ever been in, was still only half of what we saw in Vegas.
All right. Next, we're going to talk about industry outlook. So specifically, how the printing industry is making things smaller for crafters and small businesses to be able to do these things from home. So examples you saw on the show floor of companies doing that well.
I feel like last year there were DTF and UV DTF printers everywhere, and a lot of them were very large. And I remember like we talked to multiple people about like, how are you going to make this so it works in a standard craft room? Like we don't have an area where we can have our printer and then our dryer and shaker all the way over here. It was interesting to see while there's still not a ton, there were definitely more options this year where it's like, I feel like maybe they're getting more and more feedback that it's like, you need to tap into that crafting industry because there are a lot of us that need those smaller machines. And so I felt like that was something that I was like at this booth, it's like, oh, they actually have a smaller scale one. more like all in one type things instead of buy this, then buy this, then buy this. Like a little bit more of the understanding that we don't all have a separate like place that we can house this machine, and that's the only thing that lives out there. So I felt like it's definitely moving more toward the home crafter.
I feel like they also heard, and I know Angie and Corey had conversations last year, but I think they heard the crafters when it came to safety concerns. And again, like you said, all in one. But so like part of that is like the shaker and everything is enclosed. I do feel like I saw more like loose shakers last year. And that was a little bit, I know, concerning for all of us. And it was nice to see companies this year. It seems like it's a lot more enclosed and just making everything more accessible, smaller, safe, all of that.
I completely agree. I feel like so many people were like, and our enclosed shaker. Like it was like very much like a thing that they had worked on, which I was really happy to see because DTF safety is something I'm really worried about. I also enjoyed visiting the Epson booth and seeing that they had specifically targeted the maker this year. Last year, it was sort of like, oh, we do have these smaller machines, but nobody's interested in them. And this year, it was the main thing in the middle. They were like, you can make something over here on this iPad, and we will make you a product in under 10 minutes, just to show people like, hey, this is possible. So they had their F170, they had the F570, they had their DTG printer and their UV DTF printer, and I feel like one more that I'm missing. And I feel like they were really targeting our audience, which was really exciting to be like, thank you. Like you recognize the fact that we exist and that especially women crafters are a huge segment of the market that's being ignored. And I think Epson really got it into their brains last year. Like, hey, maybe we should see like take a risk and promote these things and see how it goes.
They also had fun swag. So I know Jen and I took advantage of that. Obviously, like we have the capabilities to make some of the things that they made on site. But I think it was really cool for people who maybe don't know how quickly that can be done for them to basically put in their order. Like Jen made a t-shirt. I made a little like glasses wipe with a custom photo on it. And it came back to us in like 10 minutes. So that was really cool. And I think just a really good example for people who just aren't as familiar or just getting into all of that stuff.
I think overall there were steps in the right direction. Are we all the way there yet where every single one of our audience is going to have a DTF printer at home? We are absolutely not there yet. Like, guys, this is still, it's super expensive. They have many more steps to go, but it was encouraging to see the steps heading in the right direction for crafters. I at one time said, I will never own a DTG printer. I said that probably on the podcast. And guess what? I will probably own one very, very soon. So it's happening. The steps are happening in the right direction. We're going to be able to have this technology in our home. It's getting smaller. It's getting safer. I was really encouraged by the steps that the industry is taking with the small business, the handmade business, and just the at-home crafter in mind. So overall, I was encouraged by Printing United. Yes, we saw the wow moments, the big 3D printers, the huge printers that print on fabric, but we also saw the smaller guys that we're going to be able to have at home.
I feel like we have described DTF sort of, especially for crafters, as being in its infancy. I think we're taking our first steps. I feel like we are toddling now. Are we going to be an adult anytime soon? I don't think so. But I am very encouraged to see how far we have gotten in just a year to start and to see more people concerned about safety, which I think is really, really big. For example, we were talking to Joe at the Uninet booth, and he showed us this $25,000 printer that's the size of a smart car, so clearly not something we can have in our house yet. But the powder comes in a completely sealed tube, and you just put it in there, and you close it, and it opens it up and does the thing with the powder. And for me, I was like, yes, more of this, please, because this is handling the safety issues that I've had, because we don't want to be breathing in those microplastics. And there's a lot of big worry about all of the fumes and other things that DTF printers create. So seeing companies in less than a year innovate to the point where they can do a fully closed tube of that adhesive makes me really excited.
All right, let's chat trends. So one trend that you saw on the show floor and you are like, okay, how can I use this in my crafts? How can I use this in my handmade business?
100% the using other materials to create an embroidered look, finished product. We saw it at the Stalls booth where they have like patches and different things. It's
Yeah.
called like Liquid 3D or something, but it looks like a like layered embroidered patch. It's almost more like a vinyl or an HTV type material. We saw the printer that was printing the UV DTF puff for fabric that had that embroidered look. I mean, even Caesar on some of their stuff, they had like added that stitched look. So I love that. Like I said, I love the embroidered look. I love those patches. I love all that stuff. And I love seeing that they're creating ways for people to get that look without having to have a big embroidery machine or the ability to do those things. And so I don't know, I felt like we saw it in one place and then all of a sudden it was like, look, they're doing something like it and they're all a little bit different. I feel like that hand stitching thing is trending and they're like, how can we make it work for what we're doing because we don't sell thread and fabric.
Yes, that was one of my favorite things too. And you mentioned the Stalls booth. So they had Sports Stitch. They said it was twill. And then they have like the stitching, but it's a patch that then you press on with your heat press. I actually took a sample of one home. I've washed it. It's amazing. Like it looks like a true like embroidered patch that's on there. I saw a couple things, but especially with sublimation blanks, I think they're trying to get a little bit trendier. I saw like those like little hand sanitizers, the Touchland ones, those like square ones. I thought that was cool, especially for like the teen tween market. I know for like my daughter would love that, but you could personalize the back and the inside so that like your Touchland essentially would show, whatever you want it to. So that was really cool.
And I think patches are a continuing trend, right? Like patches, stamp look, that stamp look. We got a sardine patch at Stalls, which looked like a stamp. So it like combined all the trends into one little thing that we all were like obsessed over. So I feel like those type of things we're continuing to see those. And I was encouraged by the lower minimums, like Stalls specifically. We talked about lower minimum buys. I was really encouraged by that. And I hope to see more of that in the industry because the minimums are killing a small business that only needs a couple. So they were actually doing no minimums for a lot of those products that we saw, which I was blown away by that. So I think that if we can continue to see that type of trend as well, I think it'll help that small business owner.
And then I think for me, one of the trends I saw in several places from several of the garment manufacturers is that we are getting like a washed look, right? So we have that kind of boxier shape that we're still seeing everywhere. And now we're seeing that has been like thrown through the washing machine a whole bunch of times. So it's faded around the seams and everything. And I saw that in several of the different booths. Bella Canvas was the big one. They are showing off their whole washed collection. So I think we're going to be seeing that trend.
All right, so next let's talk machines. Like in a perfect world, if you could take home one machine from Printing United, what would it be? And I know what Jen's going to say, so go ahead and just say the UV DTF puff, Jen.
Like you would think I was going to say that, but if I'm being completely honest, Corey mentioned, I have no room for this. Let me just make that very clear. But the DTF printer that they had at the Uninet booth. So I have ordered since last year. I think last year I was like, what is DTF? And it was like everywhere. And so I've ordered a lot of prints and I really, really, really like how the ease of using them. And so I think like if I was thinking small business minded, that would probably be the like biggest needle mover. That just, it's so easy. And like the ability to be like, okay, I'm going to handle the printing and literally I could have any of my kids do the pressing. Like it's just so easy. And the way it was all contained in that machine, like I've said, like I don't have a lot of space, but I could find somewhere where it's like, okay, like I don't have to have these in separate areas and stuff. And it's not, things floating all around my room and everything. So while I loved the one, I feel like maybe it's slightly more limited in uses, like, because I didn't get to really see what those prints looked like in anything. Like they were really just showing that kind of stitched look. So I might need like a little bit more of a nudge to be like, okay, you can also make it look like this. But I think if I was going to pick one thing, it would have to be that very expensive machine that doesn't fit. Like I have no word.
the $25,000 smart car sized DTF machine.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, of large machines, I think I would take that giant 3D printing house. It's like a mini house, like basically just like a she shed that's nothing but printing a 3D thing. And I would have the best holiday decor for my support. We would just like Candyland the whole neighborhood. I don't even know. Like it would just be again, not practical at all. Like maybe I should like a regular small 3D printer. But that was just so cool.
I think for me, I would really like a full-size UV DTF printer to make stickers and those sorts of things. I have the Eufy Make small printer. I literally have not taken it out of the box, and I can do that with this print with the Eufy Make. But like to be able to make like sheets of stickers would be ideal.
I'm gonna say my answer is more practical, but I would say the Epson DTG because I would like to experiment with DTG. And then the second thing is they are releasing an upgraded model of the F170 that is going to be print larger. And Angie needs a larger sublimation printer. So that is going to be the second thing on my wish list. So mine is a little more practical, and I would, if someone was like, you can have this UV DTF puff thing and just play with it, I would sign up for that automatically. Vic, I would sign up for that.
Yeah. So everybody watching needs to like tag them and be like, hey, send them these printers so they can show us how they work.
Don't send me the printer though.
That's Vic
I
at
think I
Craft
need to get some
Express.
sort of like county permit situation to like put that in my backyard. We do
I'm
not
putting
have
in
space
my
for that.
orders now for Crystal to make me nutcrackers, 3 life-size
Literally.
nutcrackers for my
They need to make that one waterproof so it just sits outdoors. It's like your 3D printing she shed, like you said. Like they just need to make it waterproof.
But I really think I'd have to pull a permit for that thing.
Right.
I think it's
I
big.
think you would. There's no place it wouldn't fit in a house
No.
because it's the size of a room.
All right. So at Printing United, you can make a lot of things or a lot of like make this and take it type of things. So each of us, what was your favorite swag you got from the show and why?
Okay, this one's easy for me because I really enjoyed walking over to the Trotec laser booth and being like, oh, this is a nice laser. And he's like, you can make ornaments on the other side. And I walked over to the other side and met, I think her name is Dawn something. And she and I had literally been emailing about something completely unrelated like that week. And she's like, wait, that's you. And I'm like, that's you. And then we made Christmas ornaments and had like a fun little time in their booth. She had all of these different things that she'd cut out on her Trotec laser. So Trotec is like a step even farther above like the lasers that all of us have. So they have it's like a little desktop guy, but he's like $22,000 or something. So, but workhorse, I mean like a bajillion percent faster. So seeing that booth and doing that make and take was really, really fun.
I'm going to say that UV DTF puff thing. They gave us all prints to experiment with at home. So I was excited about that. I feel like one of us got the completed shirt, but I just got a print. I'm just in love with that and like being able to experiment a little bit at home. They had some kind of thing that also heated from the bottom. So I'm like wondering if it only works with a heat press that only heats from the top. So just kind of wondering about that. So my favorite swag tends to be things that I can play with at home, I guess would be the bottom line.
My favorite was, as I mentioned before, the Sports Stitch. I got to see them actually press it on a hoodie, and the hoodie was actually really nice. And so I was able to take that home, and it was good to be able to wash it and see how it held up. Because I am thinking of using it with my own small business. So that is actually, I am being practical in that aspect. Also, I think Jen and I probably ate our fair share of candy. So the candy was very much appreciated. It's not related at all, but like, it's a great way to get people to come to your booth. And it definitely kept us happy.
Yeah, we might be slight candy addicts. When we were leaving, we were like, so what are the chances the next place that we go, they're going to just have candy sitting out where we can take it? And I also really appreciate that they don't care if you just come take a piece. Like you don't have to necessarily talk to them the whole time. My favorite was, well, there were a lot of really cool things, but I think my favorite was because I've never seen it before. Crystal was telling before that Epson had like their like little booth thing set up where you could go in and upload your own photo and then choose what you wanted to have it put on. And so I had this photo that we had from a concert that we went to, and they put it right on the shirt with the direct to garment printer. And I've never seen like in like real life what that all looks like. And so to like kind of get to see the printer and then get to come home with something that was made with it was really fun, and definitely something that I'll use.
I also think they do a good job of like, there was like Labubu stickers and different things like that. So it's also like very trendy take home things. It's not like the things left over from last year. They definitely stay on trend each time. So in Vegas, we saw a lot of Vegas type of things. And this time it was just like very trendy type of stuff that they were giving away and allowing you to make.
You
Yeah, I
can
think
take home a
somebody-
whole suitcase of stuff. Like it is a lot of stuff.
Somebody was doing the NFL stickers, which I bet they probably actually make them, like have the licensing because they're like the manufacturer. And I came home and like my kids, you would have thought we won the lottery. Like they were so excited for just like the little stickers. But I mean, they were really nice. So that was fun.
All right. Last segment is going to be the future. So, what is one thing you wish printers understood and would do better in the future? So, what are you looking for at Printing United 2026?
I want smaller. I want them to take all of the technology that we see getting smaller and for it to become even smaller. I want the enclosed powdered for DTF printers. I want to be able to have a better cleaning maintenance cycle. Some of those big machines are now doing better automatic maintenance cycles, and I want that on a little machine. So I think that we're headed there. Like I said, we're like taking toddler steps in the right direction. Will we see it next year? I'm not sure, but I think we're heading in the right direction.
I would say on that same vein, the price points. So, I mean, obviously, as things get smaller, they'll hopefully get less expensive. But I do know we were, chatting with one of the vendors about one of the machines. I think it was actually that UV DTF puff. And they were like, oh, well, it's $21,000, but we have a show special. You can take it home today for $15,000. And we are like, oh, okay. Like, can we knock like a zero off of that maybe? Like it just, it's just not, it's kind of out of like our realm right now as, hobby or small business crafters, sort of limiting.
I think one of the things that I'd like to see, and I'm not even sure how to make this happen, but if anyone's listening, this would be huge. Corey's talking about being smaller. Like we've talked about things being smaller. I would love to figure out, and this is maybe even more a software side of things, but I want to be able to make larger projects with the smaller machines. And so if there was a way that I could be like, okay, I have this image and my material's 8.5 by 11 or on a roll or whatever, but it's just whatever size. I can upload it and it is going to automatically split that design for me so that it's like, okay, I'm going to print this side and then I'm going to print this. You could tell it, I want it to be 3 feet by 4 feet or whatever. We obviously do things like that. We're using different programs and stuff to splice things, but it would be so nice if they kept like both things in mind. Like we need a smaller machine, but we still want to make those larger projects. So whether that's like we have more materials that come on rolls that work with the machines, whether we have, the programs have that ability to automatically split things. I just think like when I'm looking at my current setup, there is not space for larger machines. And so I really like I would love to see it's like, hey, we're keeping you in mind this way, but we also know you want to be able to do these things. I just think it would open up a whole new world for crafters and small businesses.
I would say combo machines. So I was encouraged by the fact that that was UV DTF and you could press it on a shirt. And maybe that's a baby step in a direction where I could print stickers as well as a DTF print to print on a shirt out of the same machine, because I feel like that's what crafters need, right? So the small business owner, they can only afford one machine. And right now they have to make a decision. Do I want to make all fabric things? Am I going to want to put it on hard surfaces? I have to make a decision here. If you didn't have to make that decision and could spend your money and get one machine, I feel like that would be sort of ideal world circumstances. And whether that's possible or not, I do not know. I am just dreaming here for the future. And if you keep making those steps, I feel like maybe we could get there. All right. What an incredible conversation. Thank you, Jen and Crystal, for joining us. Printing United 2025 really proved that the print industry is more connective, they're innovative, and forward thinking. And we really appreciate all those small steps for the small handmade business owner. What I love most is that these innovations aren't just for the big players anymore, right? So, us smaller print shops, us creatives, us crafters are getting access to tools that make high quality, sustainable print accessible to everyone.
Again, a huge thank you to Jen and Crystal. We love you guys, obviously. Please never leave us. Thank you for sharing your firsthand experience. And of course, thank you to everybody who's listening. If you were at Printing United, we saw some of you there. We were so excited to meet you. We will probably be in Vegas next year if you want to stop by. And yeah, so whether you're tuning in from your craft room, your studio, your design booth, whatever you're doing, we are so glad that you're here.
And if you don't know, you can absolutely grab Printing United tickets for free. So when they first put them up, they definitely have a free code. So if you're close to Vegas, you want to travel to Vegas in 2026, keep your eye on their social media for those free codes. And as always, don't forget to follow or subscribe so you don't miss any episodes of Crafting for Profit Live, and we will keep you up to date on all the things. Until next time, keep innovating, keep creating, and keep printing. So thank you all for listening.